Today, we will be talking about the burial of Dolph Ziggler, the moment where WWE absolutely destroyed this man's career. For the previous wrestlers, we spoke about the moment when their careers were ruined. Well, in Ziggler's case, it's a different story because he was rocked to the point where he has not recovered for the last 7 years. He's hustled in every single match before being ruined to make his opponents look good. Just take a look at his selling and his older matches throughout the last decade. Ziggler was basically Shawn Michaels from Summerslam in 2005, but in pretty much every single match he's had on Raw or SmackDown. He improved on the microphone to develop a cocky gimmick that people grew to hate. He scratched and clawed, waiting for any opportunity to arise. And when he finally reached that point, it was all taken away from him. Yep, this is going to be the sad and depressing story of Dolph Ziggler's career. Let's talk about it.
It reminds me that it should have been me.
Let's begin with his early WWE career. He began his debut alongside Kerwin White as his enforcer, sidekick, and driver. This was not a good look for Dolph Ziggler. Riding around the arena with Chavo Guerrero, who was now a golfer, was pretty random. It did not do anyone any favors, and it didn't last too long either. Ziggler was done with that storyline and advanced to a much more prominent role. Yes, you guessed it, you know what I'm talking about. It's his involvement in the lethal and brutal faction, the Spirit Squad. For anyone who forgot who the Spirit Squad was, let me refresh your memory. They were a group of random cheerleaders who ran around Raw helping Vince and Shane McMahon during their feud with D-Generation X. Did it make any sense as to why Vince McMahon had a bunch of cheerleaders help him? Not really, but it happened. Ziggler didn't even adopt his name at this time. He was still being referred to as Nicky. He stayed with this group for about a year until the feud was over. The way they wrote off the faction was hilarious and dumb at the same time. Triple H and Shawn Michaels really packaged them away via UPS, and that was it for them. Nicky was gone and left off TV to wrestle back in OVW. Finally, he found his spot on the main roster once again when he was repackaged as Dolph Ziggler. The name was questionable, but he seems to be ready to be part of something pretty great. He had a good look and was excellent in the ring. He didn't do much for a couple of years. Ziggler was just a part of the mid-card division, feuding with people like Rey Mysterio or the Great Khali. It wasn't until 2010 when he was paired with Vicky Guerrero when he really shined. Guerrero was such a great heel that she was rubbing off on Dolph Ziggler. Along with the story of him having a thing for cougars, people became attracted to their characters and rooted against them at all costs. Fans began to recognize Ziggler as an underrated talent, and he was becoming a fan favorite towards the older fan base while being hated by the Young Bucks. No, not these Young Bucks, but these Young Bucks. Throughout this entire run, one man was very impressed with all of his work, and that man is none other than the boss himself, Vincent Kennedy McMahon. And that led to Ziggler's greatest achievement in his career at this time.
It reminds me that it should have been me.
On July 15th in 2012, Dolph Ziggler became Mr. Money in the Bank for the World Heavyweight Championship. This meant that Ziggler was pretty much guaranteed a World Championship victory in the near future. Surprisingly, he held on to that briefcase for a good amount of time. He did not cash it in for the rest of 2012. Instead, he was busy feuding with John Cena, which was a good step in the right direction. It made logical sense if Ziggler beat him in the feud and gained some momentum, and then later on became champion. But that was not the case. John Cena prevailed and won the feud. Although he wasn't victorious, he was still being presented as a main eventer. He even got a new bodyguard in Biggie Langston and a new girlfriend in AJ Lee. It looked like things were looking promising for the year of 2013. Was Dolph Ziggler going to take over? That's when we fast forward to the Raw after WrestleMania 29.
It reminds me that it should have been me.
Since I personally attended this episode of Raw, I can confirm that the crowd was chanting "We want Ziggler" for the majority of the nights. The fans were not going to be pleased unless Dolph Ziggler was going to cash in that Money in the Bank briefcase and win the World Heavyweight Championship. With Alberto Del Rio taking on Jack Swagger in a rematch at the Raw after WrestleMania, this possibility only continued to grow stronger. Once Del Rio was selling a foot or ankle injury, the fans chanted even louder that they wanted Dolph Ziggler to come down to the ring and cash in. That is when you cue Ziggler's music, and he was there to show the world. The crowd, including myself, erupted out of our seats screaming in excitement. Dolph Ziggler walked down to the ring with all the confidence in the world. He handed the briefcase to Mike Chioda, who called for the bell. After a zigzag, Ziggler pinned Del Rio in the middle of the ring. The match was over, and Dolph became the World Heavyweight Champion. Things were looking amazing for him. He had his little faction going on, and now the World Championship was around that little circle. The possibilities of his feuds for the future was exciting. I personally was so ready to see what was next for his future. But where did it all go wrong?
It reminds me that it should have been me.
And just as things were looking really bright for him is when he hit the biggest roadblock of his career. Dolph Ziggler suffered from a minor concussion injury. The injury wasn't career threatening to the point where he had to retire. He was just out of action for 3 or 4 weeks. But if you know Vince McMahon, you should know that getting an injury during the beginning of your title run, even if it's for 1 week or 1 year, is a pretty much done deal for him. It's over. Therefore, I would consider this injury the moment that his career was ruined because it destroyed his perception towards Vince McMahon. After returning to action, Ziggler lost his championship on his first title defense back to Alberto Del Rio. Why did Del Rio get so many opportunities and title reigns? I don't know. But after the match, Del Rio and Ziggler had a double turn, and that was another terrible idea. Who thought making Dolph Ziggler, one of the cockiest wrestlers at this moment, a babyface, was a good idea? It was such a bad booking idea because the story did not lead to him winning back his championship. He got injured. He lost the title. He turned face and could not regain his championship. Why was that the payoff of his new face turn? Those moments literally destroyed his entire career. There was no way he was going to recover. I would consider the concussion injury the biggest moment that made him a failure because, like I was saying, a month in WWE is basically like a year. Vince McMahon moves on very quickly. If he sees a wrestler who is not durable, who's not strong, who doesn't get injuries, he will quit on you immediately. I sometimes think and question to myself, what would have happened if he never got injured? It just makes me wonder, would he be a top star right now? Who knows? But now, let's look at what's transpired after this horrendous booking.
It reminds me that it should have been me.
After ending his feud with Alberto Del Rio, Ziggler went on to feud against Big E and AJ Lee because he made his full face turn. He needed to separate away from his group because they were bad guys. Once he was officially done with that group, he floated around in the mid-card division again. It wasn't until 2014 when he began a feud with the Authority where he was making his way back to the top of the main event scene. He was even the sole survivor of the Survivor Series match and beat the Authority with the help of Sting. It seemed that WWE was pushing him yet again. The fans were getting excited, people were happy for this. What was going to happen next? Nothing really, because we were all wrong, and that storyline did not go anywhere. In 2015 and 2016, he began a feud with Rusev and Pllana. He was dating Pllana for a brief time period. It was pretty much the Bobby Lashley and Pllana of 2015. But if you think about it, if anything, the Bobby Lashley and Pllana is the Dolph Ziggler and Pllana of 2019. You know what I mean. I don't know how Rusev keeps getting finessed and keeps taking back Pllana afterwards. Like, come on, bro. You're getting fooled every single time. But that's besides the point. Let's go back to talking about Dolph Ziggler. In 2016, he was actually given a WWE title match against Dean Ambrose at Summerslam, but he was unsuccessful. Ziggler then moved on to his greatest feud of his WWE career. It was him versus The Miz for the Intercontinental Championship, and that feud went on for about 3 or 4 months. They were the highlight of SmackDown for the second half of the year. His career was getting rejuvenated yet again, so we thought. Nothing much happened afterwards. Another notable thing was his partnership with Drew McIntyre, and finally, he has been recently involved in a feud against the Bloodline, who are also known as the Usos and Roman Reigns on SmackDown, by aligning himself with Baron Corbin and Bobby Roode. And yes, they have been feuding for the last 5 months. It is incredibly amazing and insane how this feud is still going on. In all honesty though, Ziggler lost all the star power and his relevance after 2017. Vince McMahon just pays him money right now so he doesn't go to the competition. He will never ever become a world champion or main event guy ever again. I can say a million evers because that's how confident I am. I actually have a slap bet with my friend that Dolph Ziggler will never be champion and that CM Punk has a better chance of returning, but that's another thing. And that is how WWE destroyed Dolph Ziggler's WWE career. As you can see, he has not been able to make a return to the world title picture. He probably will never, and it sucks. Dolph could have made for one great champion. In my opinion, he should have left in 2018 and tried to go to New Japan or do some indie shows. Then again, when someone's offering you $1.5 million a year, it's hard to give up on that. Dolph will probably retire from in-ring action with WWE, and he will forever be a great example of what if. Just what if he never got injured. It was a terribly timed injury that ruined his chances and ruined the last decade of his professional career. And that is it for the video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I hope y'all enjoyed. If you did, please make sure to leave a like and subscribe for more. Make sure to follow me on Twitter at Pllana, and I'll see you all on the next video.
And I got this soul.